So, Karl, you've seen that sculpture of David, haven't you?
I have, yes, I've seen Michelangelo's David. I pointed at his dick.
Of course, I expect nothing less.
Michelangelo is often considered to be the prototypical Renaissance man, and he's single-handedly responsible for some of the greatest works of art the world has ever seen. Amongst the countless masterpieces credited to Michelangelo, perhaps the most curious is one nobody will ever see, an immaculate giant man made of snow.
What is the story of this legendary snowman?
Well, we need to go back to 1494 when the city of Florence, where Michelangelo was living at the time, saw an unseasonable snowstorm which left the city covered in several feet of crisp Colgate white snow, which was unprecedented because, as you might imagine, Italy don't get much snow even in the winter. So having several feet of it fall almost overnight was quite the occasion.
It must have been quite the sight for the people who lived there, but what has this got to do with Michelangelo?
Well, when the snow fell, it's noted that the many aristocrats and noblemen and just other rich dickheads who lived in Florence used the occasion as an excuse to pay the many artists living in the city to construct giant opulent snowmen, varying in size and extravagance. And anyone out there is currently wondering, why would rich people waste money on something that was literally going to melt? The answer is because they were rich and they wanted to show off. Why would rich people waste their money on something so stupid? Because they're rich and they can.
Definitely something interesting to look at for a week.
It is, yeah, and it's one of those things where it became a competition of sorts between noblemen, like who can have like the most extravagant, ridiculous snowman constructed. And in specific regards to the artists who actually made the snowmen, it's noted that it was a tradition in Florence that whenever there was heavy enough snowfall to make snowmen, artists would go out and ply their craft on the snow for the public to see, because it was a very unique way for them to show off their skill. And also it just made Florence look quite nice, where you'd walk around and just see snow sculptures everywhere.
Yeah, I can imagine it was like really pretty for about a week or so. And also they can get in practice for when they actually want to do sculptures. If they have an idea to make a sculpture, like let's just practice in the snow first, see how it looks.
And snow by its nature is going to melt. So if you fuck it up, it's not really that big a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
And it reminds me a little bit of those guys that you see who make the giant, impressive sand sculptures on the beaches.
Oh, yes.
And if there's anyone out there who does that or knows someone who does, like here's a free idea for you, because I've always wondered why they don't do this. And the number one worry must be when you do that, of some drunk knobhead is going to run over and knock it over or kick a ball at it just to be a dick.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered why, at the end of an evening, because usually you find it when you're walking down the beach, don't you? So it's like 11 o'clock at night, you'll see them just sat there with them. Why they don't wait till about like midnight when bars start kicking out, people start going to nightclubs? Just say, okay, who wants to pay to kick it over? And just get drunk people to bid on the right to run up and boot it over for Instagram or whatever. I reckon they'd make quite a decent bit of money doing that. Because have you ever seen those sand sculptures of dogs that people make?
Yeah, I've seen them.
This must sound so weird if people don't know what we're talking about. Like, sand artists will make just sand art of a dog. I've always, in the back of my head, gone, I really want to run up and boot that. But I know, obviously, I'm not going to because it's a dick move. But if the artist went, if you give me a tenner, I'll let you boot it, I'd be like, I've got a tenner, and that'd be pretty funny. And I'd like to someone to film it, do you know, like the slow-mo on the iPhone?
Yeah.
I want someone to slow-mo film it as my boot just flies through it at half the speed of sound. Usually those artists, they destroy it at the end of the night anyway and build a new one the next day. That's why it's so impressive. Oh, they built it in a day. So why not make a little bit of extra money from the destruction? And that reminds me a little bit when it snowed quite heavily in Sheffield a few years back. Some kids on the road I lived in, they've got my utmost respect forever because drunk people kept running and kicking over their snowmen, and then people driving cars would just veer onto the pavement to knock over snowmen just to be a dick.
Oh, God.
So what some kids on the estate I was on at the time did is they built all their snowman around the bollards. Just in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, just someone crashed into one of the bollards. It was a guy driving home who mounted the curb to knock it over to be an arsehole and didn't know there was a bollard in it. It's so good. That's so good.
So the building of the snowmen, turned into a competition.
Yeah, it was like a friendly competition between artists and noblemen of Florence would go out of their way to try and construct the most opulent snowman possible on their property, just as a way to flex their wealth and the fact, oh look, the artist I have under my charge is more talented than the one that you do. Which is where Michelangelo comes in, because his patron at the time was a guy called Piero de Medici. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he thought, well, I've got the best artist in the city, and I've got the most money, because de Medici basically ran all of Florence at the time, or at least his family did. So he had the most amount of money of anyone. And he tasked young Michelangelo with making him the best snowman anybody had ever seen.
Well, to be honest, that kind of sounds like something that would be beneath Michelangelo.
It does, doesn't it? Like, the legendary Michelangelo, make me a snowman. So just point out that at the time, Michelangelo was a mere 20 years old, so he didn't exactly have the legendary reputation he had just a decade later when he sculpted the David. But he was still very, very well known amongst his artistic peers, and de Medici knew that. He was one of the most talented young artists in the city. And he also knew I've got the most money and the biggest property, which as a result means I've got the most snow. Yeah. So he tasked young Michelangelo with making him the best snowman anyone had ever seen. And Michelangelo took that challenge to heart and constructed, by all accounts, the most beautiful snowman anyone had ever seen. And his snowman was reportedly a towering, imposing figure whose eyes judged all its gaze fell upon as lesser. And it's like, yeah, that sounds about right. We don't know how tall it was, but like the stories go that Michelangelo used it as a dry run for the David.
Okay.
Which is like his most famous piece of art ever, and is a giant fucking statue. I've seen it. There'll be a picture of me right now pointing at the David. That thing is fucking huge. And the story goes that the snowman was a dry run for the David, so it's reasonable to believe that it was just as large, which would be fucking terrifying to see in snow form, wouldn't it? The David, which I've seen, one of the reasons that I like it so much is because I read a description of it, because in the museum, the entire museum is built around the David. Yeah. And everything else in there's you don't give a shit, you're here to see one thing, here's the David, and it's in one big room. And they talk about it's there's a quote from an art expert of, it is without a doubt the finest piece of art ever seen. If you only ever see one piece of artwork, make it this one, because everything else is beneath it. Okay. I was like, oh, cool, that was awesome, because I saw that on a trip and went, well, I don't need to go to any more museums, I've seen the David.
That's something I'd definitely like to go and see. I'd like to go to Italy anyway. I've only been to Rome, because we went on a cruise and we got to go to Rome for the day. Fair enough. You cannot do Rome in a day. I did. You can't, so...
You can, you see the Colosseum.
I can't.
See the Colosseum, you're basically done.
I did see the Colosseum, yes. But it had scaffolding, so it wasn't very nice.
It had scaffolding when I went there as well. Me and my mate did pull-ups in it for Russell Crowe. We did pull-ups on the scaffolding for Russell Crowe, and there's a picture of me, and I'll send it to whoever edits this video, that I'm going to share, because it's one of those photos that I took thinking, I look so fucking cool. And it's me lying down on the pavement outside of the Colosseum, because I was going for an Italian Renaissance era painting. Yeah. Because I was laying down with the shoulder all lackadaisical, I don't give a shit. But the fold in my trousers makes it look like I've got a big erection. It's
I think I remember that photo.
And I sent it to my mum, and my mum just said back, why have you got an erection? I'm not, it's my trousers. It's no. But the important thing to note here is that the snowman Michelangelo built may very well have been just a snow version of the David, meaning that this legendary mythical snowman might have been a towering 20-foot tall man with his dong out, made of snow. And that's awesome. So Nisha, you mentioned that you've been to Rome and you've seen the Colosseum, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so that means we've both seen the Colosseum, because I went to Rome for a day. And the story I tell about Rome is that I went, because we were travelling through Italy at the time, me and a friend, and we had a day-long stopover, and we thought, well, Rome's small enough where we can see it all. So we saw the Colosseum, and then we went to the Vatican. Yeah. And I went to the Vatican the day before Mother Teresa got canonised. So me and my friend went there, and it was eerily dead, but there's thousands of chairs everywhere. Are there normally chairs just outside the Vatican? And we couldn't figure out what was going on. Yeah. We were just looking around, why are there so many chairs here? Why is there a giant 20-foot tall portrait of Mother Teresa just looking at us? Mm. And we didn't realise because we were idiots, but yeah, I did that. So is there any other like famous landmarks you've seen? Any other iconic pieces of like historical significance?
When we went to Rome, we tried to do as many landmarks as we could in the 8 hours that we had. So the Colosseum was one of them. We saw the Spanish Steps.
Yeah. Could you walk up them?
Yeah.
They were shut when I went. How did you shut stairs? I felt so ripped off. They shut stairs.
Yeah, we saw them, and then we went up them, and also the Trevi Fountain, where you threw coins in. So that was really nice.
The one thing I do remember though is I walked past a bar that was just called El Toto. That was nice. There's a picture of me like, it's Toto! And I went in and got a slice of pizza, that was alright. And when I went to Los Angeles, I don't think I really saw anything there. I kept meaning to go to Hollywood and then forgot. I can't be arsed. I just asked how many crowds were in Hollywood? It's like a lot. It's like, oh, fuck that. I don't want to go see a fucking crowd. I didn't come to America for crowds.
No.
Not about that life. So I was over there for like a week and didn't see fucking anything. So, all these cool sights. Should I see it? Nah, I'm good. Be right. I'll come back and I'll see them next time. And now the Rona happens and I want no travelling ever.
And then when I think of holiday, I think of relaxation. So I'd rather sit on the beach or by a pool rather than walk around.
I just hate people, so I couldn't be arsed.
Yeah. I hate crowded areas. So the Colosseum was quite busy when we went, so it was just like, yeah, let's just stay away. Because we didn't have a chance to go inside because it was like 3 hours queuing time. We're like, yeah, we've got 8 hours
we were lucky, I guess.
8 hours to view Rome, and it's like, yeah, I'm not spending 3 hours in a queue. It's probably gonna cost. I don't know how much it costs to get in, but I was like, it's probably not.
Yeah. We went on a day where it was like quite empty. But I had an argument with my mate about it. I went, look, everyone has one image of the Colosseum, and it's the one we're looking at right now for free. Do you really want to pay to go? He's like, no, I need to go inside. I need to see it. We paid like the €20 to get in, walked around it, got outside. He went, I wish we'd just stayed out here and had a beer. And just like, because it's so much nicer outside, because it's so unimpressive inside. You can't go anywhere, and it's all broken down and dilapidated. It's like, yeah, the facade of the building is what people know. And that's where you want to get your photos. It's like, yeah, there you go. As long as I got a photo of it, it's all done. It's more impressive from the outside.
Yeah.
Just like El Toto, which did shit pizza.